The wind howled across the desolate street, whispering through the half-dead trees that lined the edge of Raven Hollow Road. It was a little past midnight, and the fog had rolled in thick enough to swallow sound, thick enough to hide the things that didn't belong. Inside an old, creaking house at the far end of the road, Evelyn Marsh sat alone. The glow from a single lamp cast long shadows across her living room, flickering every few seconds, as if the light itself was nervous. She had lived in this house for 3 months, ever since her grandmother passed away and left it to her. It was supposed to be a fresh start after the divorce, but the house felt wrong from the very beginning. It wasn't just the smell of damp wood or the floorboards that groaned under invisible footsteps. It was the feeling that she was being watched. Tonight, the silence felt heavier than usual. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until your own breathing sounds too loud. Then, the phone rang. The sound shattered the stillness, making her heart leap into her throat. Evelyn glanced at the clock. 12:03 a.m. Who could be calling at this hour? Who could be? She hesitated, then reached for the receiver. Hello? A pause. Then, a low, shaky breath on the other end. You shouldn't be there. The voice was distorted, like it was coming from an old radio. Male, rough, urgent. Who is this? Evelyn asked, her voice trembling. Is this some kind of joke? But the line went dead. She sat frozen for a moment, the echo of the voice lingering in her head. Her hand was still gripping the phone when it rang again, shrill, sudden, making her jump. She answered quickly this time. Listen, whoever you are. The voice interrupted. He's in the house. Her stomach dropped. What did you say? But the line cut again. This time with a faint click, as if someone had just hung up an old rotary phone right next to her ear. The silence that followed was unbearable. She set the receiver down slowly and turned toward the staircase. Every creak, every shift of the wind made her flinch. She told herself it was a prank, maybe one of her ex-husband's sick jokes. But when she noticed the front door was slightly open, her breath caught in her throat. She was sure she had locked it. Evelyn grabbed the fireplace poker and approached the door. The wind pushed it wider, letting the fog seep inside like pale fingers. She peered out, nothing but white mist and the silhouette of the gate swaying in the distance. She shut the door tight and locked it again. That's when she noticed the muddy footprints leading from the doorway into the living room. Her heart began to race. She followed the prints with the poker trembling in her hand. They led past the couch, through the hallway, and stopped right at the base of the stairs. Then she heard it. A slow, deliberate creak from the floor above. Someone was upstairs. Evelyn's mind screamed to run, but her body wouldn't move. She forced herself to back away slowly toward the phone. Her trembling fingers reached for it again. She dialed 911, whispering the numbers like a prayer. The operator picked up. 911, what's your emergency? There's someone in my house, Evelyn whispered. Please, you have to send someone. He's upstairs. Stay calm, ma'am. Can you see the intruder? No, but he's here. He's... From upstairs came the sound of something dragging, a heavy scraping noise across the floor. The operator's tone changed. Ma'am, I need you to get somewhere safe. Is there a back exit? Evelyn's eyes darted to the kitchen door. Yes, I can get there. Go now, stay on the line. Evelyn began to move, every step silent and cautious. The dragging sound above her grew louder, closer to the stairs. Then, thump, a single heavy footstep. She stopped breathing. The operator whispered through the phone. Mom, are you still there? She didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the staircase. The darkness at the top seemed to breathe, to shift. Then, a shadow moved. Someone was standing there. Evelyn's heart stuttered. She could make out the outline, tall, broad-shouldered, face obscured by the darkness. The man didn't move. He just stood there. Then, in a voice that was almost a whisper, he said, "You shouldn't have answered." The phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Evelyn bolted for the kitchen. Behind her, the footsteps thundered down the stairs. She flung open the back door and stumbled out into the freezing fog. She ran. The world around her dissolved into grey and white. She didn't know where she was going, only that she had to get away. Her bare feet hit the cold pavement of the driveway, splashing through puddles. Behind her, she heard nothing. No footsteps, no voice. Just silence. She didn't stop until she reached the main road. That's when she saw the flashing blue lights. A police cruiser pulled up beside her, and a young officer jumped out. "Mom, are you Evelyn Marsh?" She nodded, shaking. "He's in my house. Someone's in there." The officer's hand went to his weapon. "We got your call. Stay here." He radioed for backup and entered the property, flashlight cutting through the fog. Evelyn sank to the ground, wrapping her arms around herself. Her breath came in ragged gasps. Every second felt like an hour. Then, another cruiser arrived. More officers moved in. The minutes dragged by. Finally, one of them returned, face pale. "Mom," he said slowly, "there's no one in the house." Evelyn stared at him. "That's impossible. I saw him. He was standing at the top of the stairs." The officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "There's something else," he said. "You might want to see this." He led her inside. The house looked the same, except for one thing. The muddy footprints were still there, but they didn't lead from the door to the stairs. They led from the stairs to the door. Evelyn's blood ran cold. The officer's flashlight swept over the walls, then stopped. There, etched into the wallpaper beside the phone, were faint, bloody letters. "You answered too late." Evelyn stumbled back, shaking her head. No, that wasn't there before." The officer crouched to look closer. "It looks old," he said quietly. "Really old." "What do you mean?" He straightened up. "The blood's dry, like decades dry." Evelyn's lips trembled. "But I just moved in 3 months ago." "Ma'am," the officer said carefully, "did your grandmother ever mention anything strange about this house?" Evelyn nodded slowly. "She used to say she hated the phone. She wouldn't answer it after midnight, said it was cursed. I thought she was just losing her mind." The officer's radio crackled before he could reply. "Dispatch to Unit 14. Come in." He picked up. 14 here. Running background on the property. Previous owner, Marion Marsh, deceased 1997. Death ruled accidental. Strangulation caused by telephone cord. Evelyn's breath caught. That was my grandmother. The officer turned off his radio slowly, his eyes narrowing. Strangled by the phone cord. Evelyn nodded. "Yes." They said it got tangled when she fell, but even as she said it, she knew she didn't believe it anymore. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep. The police stayed for a while, then left when they were sure the house was secure. She locked every door, every window. But she couldn't shake the feeling that the house was still watching her. At 3:12 a.m., she woke to the faint sound of static. Her eyes opened slowly. The sound was coming from downstairs. She sat up, heart pounding. The lamp beside her flickered once, twice, and went out. The static grew louder. Evelyn grabbed the poker again and crept down the stairs. The sound led her to the living room, to the old phone on the table. It was off the hook. She reached out with a shaking hand and lifted it. The static hissed in her ear, and then she heard a faint voice behind it, whispering, repeating her name. "Evelyn, Evelyn, Evelyn." She dropped the phone and stumbled back. But before it hit the ground, a new voice, calm, clear, and unmistakably hers, came through the line. "You shouldn't be here." The phone clicked. The lamp turned on by itself. And there, reflected in the window, Evelyn saw her own reflection smiling back, even though she wasn't. The next morning, the neighbors saw the front door wide open. The police found the house empty. No sign of a struggle, no signs of forced entry. But on the phone receiver, there was a single fingerprint. It matched Evelyn Marsh. There hasn't been another owner since. And sometimes, if you drive down Raven Hollow Road at midnight, you might hear a phone ringing from that old house. Faint, echoing through the fog. If you're brave enough to answer it, you might just hear her voice whispering, "He's in the house."